Freedom News Network, welcome back. Once again, we're bringing you the truth. Today's report has once again been brought on by one of our subscribers who has contacted us during the week requesting that we do a story on this topic. And I will remind our viewers that if they wish to contact us for any reason, whether to give us information or to request that we do a story on a certain topic, you can either comment on our YouTube videos, or you also may email us at freedomnewsnetworkfnn@gmail.com. So that's freedomnewsnetworkfnn@gmail.com. So feel free to send through any emails or requests to that. Now, today's story, Senator Nancy Schaefer, who was a Georgian senator in the 50th district, conducted an investigation into Child Protective Services back in 2010, or 2009 and 2010, leading to a final report, which was filed, which was titled "The Corrupted Dealings of Child Protective Services." Now, Nancy also claimed that this report caused her to lose her seat in the Senate. So it's very interesting, the far-reaching implications and also just disgusting nature of these claims and findings, are quite serious and really need to be discussed. She uncovered within this report many horrific breakdowns in the system, in the oversight mechanism for Child Protective Services, allowing a number of very unethical and allegedly illegal activities to be conducted. Massive financial incentives, bonuses being given out to foster care agencies and Child Protective Services homes for finding adoptive parents and successfully adopting out a number of children to fill a quota. There's been some very serious allegations levelled against many of these homes. And Nancy uncovered many of these things. She realised that there was a very high amount of money given to the foster care agents if they could adopt out the children quickly, leading to a massive disparity between numbers between different counties and their adoption percentages. Some counties having an adoption percentage of like 1% and 99% of the children being resettled with their families once things had calmed down. Some other counties with a adoption rate of like 80%, obviously making a much higher yearly allowance for themselves by doing so. And also many other incentives, like if a child is to be administered into a mental health clinic or something of that nature and receive treatment, they also get a bonus depending on how many different medications the child is on, with some children still under the care of Child Protective Services receiving up to 16 different drugs per day. So, it would really depend on the individual circumstances, but I don't think incentivizing medications and things of that nature is going to be in the best interest of the child. There must be a better way. Anyway, Nancy was quoted as saying, "I've seen so much harm come to so many families that I'm not sure if reform of the system is possible. The system does not serve the people. It obliterates families and children just because it has the power to do so. It's time to set the family free. It's time to set the children free." Now, shortly after these statements and shortly before the revelations of the findings of this investigation and final report by Senator Schaefer, she was found murdered in her home. Her and her husband were both found with gunshot wounds in the bedroom of their house shortly before the final report was released, with all the findings. The official story for this is that it was a murder-suicide, and that her husband first murdered her before turning the gun on himself. However, this version of events is contested by those who actually know the family, who claim that there's many inconsistencies in the story, and also they claim they do not believe this finding due to such things as that the family was reportedly receiving numerous death threats at the time, which seemed to escalate toward the final moment in which they were both tragically killed. And the husband wasn't under any sort of pressure or strain at the time. The people that were closest to him didn't believe him to be mentally ill or having any kind of stress at the time that would cause such an event to take place. She was also in the middle of completing her report on some very serious allegations, which involved possibly some very powerful people. So that certainly needs to be questioned. It certainly needs to be included in the final conclusion. Now, also we've been emailed with some information to do with statistics and findings due to oversight of CPS and other departments. And it's quite alarming that a California auditor found that 1,000 state licensed facilities, including foster care homes and private homes, and almost 700 of which were relating to children, foster children and the like, were registered as addresses for registered sex offenders. Some of these homes were registered as the location where sex offenders who'd been found guilty in a court of law, in some cases, were living, and there was foster children being placed in those locations. 677 foster care group homes and licensed facilities match sex offenders' addresses, as well as 385 state licensed facilities for vulnerable adults, also matching with addresses that are currently listed as the locations of registered sex offenders and their whereabouts. The State Department Social Services cites the lack of resources as the reason that it has not complied, that it has not created some sort of automated system for, checking these addresses. If these people have the ability to make so much money off adopting out children and off giving these children drugs, why don't they have the money to hire somebody to do some Google searches on these addresses and find out whether they are in fact child sex offenders? Why doesn't Ashton Kutcher, the next time that there's going to be a raid conducted on a Mexican compound, why doesn't he stay behind and just stay home and do a couple of Google searches? Why can't Thorne find the thousands of registered sex offenders under its own nose? Can anybody explain that to me? It doesn't surprise me that in 2010, the 58 counties received some 500,000 allegations of abuse and child abuse. It doesn't surprise me one bit, since they keep placing children in the care of people who live in the location listed as that of the address of registered sex offenders. It doesn't surprise me one bit. And the fact that these children are being placed in these locations that are the homes of registered sex offenders does not surprise me one bit, because many would argue that the historic ongoing support of various projects such as Planned Parenthood just shows the level of disdain and the level of protection for these children in the government. It just shows um, the high price that these people place on human life. So it does not surprise me one bit. I mean, it's clear from both reports that the mechanism which is responsible for oversight within these departments is broken. It's arguably beyond reform, and we need a better way. I mean, we need to ask these questions. If some of these reports date back to pre 2010, and that's 7, 8 years ago now, and nothing seems to have happened. And in fact, many argue that the problem has gotten worse and increasingly getting worse. And even President Donald Trump is saying that human trafficking is a huge, huge, huge problem. I think something needs to be looked at. I think we need to figure out exactly what is going on here, because it seems to be a massive systemic failing. And it seems that this failing has not been looked at properly. It has not been fixed, certainly hasn't been fixed, and if in fact it hasn't even been improved. It's worsened over time. So I think some serious questions need to be asked. Now, some of these homes, these 1,000 homes that I've just told you about, that the locations of registered sex offenders. I mean, don't think about somebody who's had an allegation made against them that might not be true, and they're a great parent and they've somehow slipped through the net and there's one child living with them in this. Some of these locations that have been raided by police in many instances are filthy places. They're not places that are designed for children. And in many cases, these homes are swamped with children. I mean, some of these people have like 14 and 20 children at any one given time in the foster care system. So let's think about that as our possible 1,000 homes. And let's think that's just one state. And one state with 500,000 allegations. And then we think this could be 50-something thousand homes with tens of children in each. That's quite widespread across the US. It's a major, major problem. And then these are the ones that we know about. These are just the ones that we know about. So who knows how many more there is? I really think that Ashton Kutcher needs to get on Google and go on the public database for registered sex offenders and start doing some bloody work. For all these government grants that are being handed out, who's ensuring the safety of the American children? I just don't understand how this could happen. I mean, some people, people adopt children for many reasons. People run these homes for many reasons, but it's clear when you've got 14 to 25 children living with you, you're either Mother Bloody Teresa, or you're doing it for some kind of other gain, whether it be financial or even more nefarious than that. I mean, I have stumbled across some instances of people adopting large amounts of children that may not be nefarious, such as John Podesta's mother. John and Tony Podesta's mother adopted 25 children when she moved recently, and it was some years ago now. I believe it was about 25, 30 years ago now, because the brothers, John and Tony Podesta, were in their 30s. So she probably decided, my children have left home. I'm going to adopt, they're obviously well and truly capable of looking after themselves now. They've both got careers and they're quite self-sufficient. So I'm going to do the world a favour and adopt 25 children. But, even if that one was innocent and there was nothing nefarious going on there, and that address was not listed as that of a registered sex offender, or at the location of that a sex offender may frequent, then that's good. That's all good and fine. But when you've got thousands of addresses of known sex offenders, over 600 of which required urgent action when discovered, when originally uncovered, urgent action, like highly, highly dangerous. It's beyond belief. It really is. These people are in charge of child safety. They're going to take these children of hardworking, everyday Americans who may be going through a tough time or may have made a mistake, and may need some temporary, a temporary moment to get over that shock, and maybe in some instances it's not in the best interest of the child that they return home safely to their family after this issue is resolved. But to take those children out of the hands of their loving parents because of a little mistake, or because they're going through a hard time, and place them in the hands of a known sex offender or a criminal or a murderer, in a location that's registered as housing a registered sex offender, beyond belief. Beyond belief. So leaves us with the question, who's going to do anything about this? When is anything going to change? When is anything going to happen? What do we need to do? We need to keep standing up. We need to keep asking questions. We need to keep calling it like it is and getting the message out there so that people know what's going on. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment if you have any comments. I'd like to hear your comments. Feel free to email us or to send through any information that you'd like us to report on or investigate. Don't forget to share, because we'd really like to get the message out there and let people know what's really going on behind the scenes. And don't forget to keep up the fight, people. God bless you.